Hello, my YouTube family and friends. I'm back. I wanted to definitely upload this video, and so I'm gonna try not to be on here too long, as I always say. But I go as long as the Holy Spirit will have for me to go. Now I want to read two scriptures here. The first one is Hebrews 13th chapter, the 4th verse, and it reads, "Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." And I'm going to read that again. Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. So that was Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4 through 5. And now I want to go to Exodus, the 20th chapter, and verse 13. And it reads, "You shall not murder." So, and verse 14 says, "You shall not commit adultery." But, so those two go together to what I'm want to talk about just briefly. Every now and then I'll be just things that come across my, it say, I think on YouTube it'll say recommended or whatever. So I'll just, I'm always when he was living, we would always watch like ID, and we didn't watch it, for the people losing their lives. We watched it for the story, because I was like, what made that person get so mad at that person where they didn't want that person living anymore? They didn't want them breathing. They didn't want them walking the earth no more. What happened? And a lot of times I would Google, because they would play it out, and they would do a reenactment, of course, because either one of them was in jail, one was dead, no longer living, or both were in jail, or both were, no longer living. So, it just was different situations. But, I would always, I would say to him, I said, what drives a person to where they want to do that? It's just, that bothers me, because, I love everybody. And I'm just like, okay, if I've never been to where I'm like, okay, I don't want them to live anymore. I'm just like, but, of course, we all know what it is. It's the enemy using people. Hatred comes in, jealousy, and a lot of that, the root of a lot of that is money. People see an opportunity to gain something from somebody no longer being alive, or, they plot to take their life. It's just different scenarios. It should not be, but that's how it is. But anyway, going back to what I was saying. So, of course, since my late husband has just passed away, I don't really watch ID like I used to. The shows are different on that channel, ID Discovery or whatever it's called. I sort of watch other stuff now. So I always watch and look at their different ones. They're just crime stories. That's what they are. They've happened. It's not anything that's been made up. They've actually happened. It's a real life event that took place, but it's been reenacted, or it's actually footage from the person being interrogated about what they did or whatever. So this one sort of stood out to me, and both people are in. One is passed away, and because his life was taken, and the other two, they're in jail for a long time. But it happened, I think, back in 2017. I don't know if you all, I'm not gonna put no names on here. That's not important. I'm sharing this because I feel like we need to be aware of things like this, and we need to be mindful. And if you're in a situation like this, you need to ask the Lord to help you to get out of that situation. Or if you're thinking about doing something, this is why I'm sharing it. I'm not sharing it to give names and all that. But so this, like I said, this happened back in 2017. I think it was in Georgia is where it happened, some part of Georgia. But and there were kids, involved in this, but I mean they're living, but I'm saying they were from the union of that man and woman. They had some children, and so I was, I just like to look at different, sides of the story, because they always say it's three sides. It ain't two sides to every story. It's three sides. It's your side, their side, and it's the truth. And that, I can't say that couldn't not been said any better, because some people will go to their grave just lying. That ain't what happened. That ain't what happened. So anyway, in this particular what happened back in 2017, uh, how the story goes, the husband seemed like he was a really good husband. He was a good man. He took care of his family, took care of his wife. That's the way it was, the story was told. And I don't know what happened. I don't recall how long they were married or whatever, but I think they were married for a little bit. But like I said, they had children. But he took in someone to stay with them, him and the wife and the children. And I think another family member was living with them too. But he took in this friend, and I don't know if I think him and the friend had been knowing each other or whatever. Anyway, he was trying to help the friend. So come to find out, over time, the husband, he was always working and away from the home. Well, the wife and that friend were laying up together. They were sleeping together. And, I don't know how it was how no flags were, popping up, but maybe the late husband, he knew. I don't know. He's no longer alive now. But I'm saying, or maybe he didn't care, or maybe, I don't know. But this was going on right in his home, that he provided for, that he took care of his children in. And it seemed like, from the pictures or whatever, seemed like he, cared for his entire family, including, his wife and children. But what really stood out to me, y'all, about that whole story was that the man that he took in, a grown man, he took in that man, trying to help him, trying to, say, okay, I know you don't fell on hard times. Let me help you out here till you get back on your feet or whatever. And I'm sure, it was mutual, that he was helping him by probably providing money to stay there. And then he needed a place to live. I know what that looked like, because that's what I had to do not too long ago, but with the lady at church. But when we lived with her for those 3 months. So I'm familiar with that scenario. But at the same time, while he was providing him a place to live, he was sleeping with his wife. The friend was sleeping with that husband's wife, with his wife. And so anyway, they ended up taking the wife and the friend. They were plotting, because there was a large amount of for policy. It was money. There was a large amount of money involved. So they ended up plotting his demise. So they were like, okay, I guess they however they planned it. So they took his life. He's no longer alive. And like I said, this happened in 2017. But I was like, wow, and I'm just so amazed, because I'm like, and my youngest son, he said, Mama, you always be watching them crime shows. I said, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out what drives a person to do something like that. That's just evil. And I said, here, a really nice scenario here, that husband took in that friend to help him out. He trusting him, you can be here, to sort of help protect the home or whatever. And instead of him doing what he should have been doing, he was sleeping with the wife. They were hopping in the bed together whenever he was not there. And then they put something on his car. I'm assuming, I don't know, but to track him, to see, to track him so they wouldn't get caught. If they was at home by themselves or whatever, doing whatever, whoever knows what they were doing, something wrong together. But they was trying to make sure they kept an eye on when it was almost time for him to get closer to the house. So I'm just like, wow, just evil all the way around. But it was all done for money. That's what it was. It was, that was the whole purpose behind it all. And I was just floored, because it hurt my heart, one, because I'm just like, why not just leave somebody? Why not just divorce somebody? But instead, You got people plotting, they don't want you alive no more. Because I want what I see, I want what I want, and I don't want you no longer breathing. I want you out of the picture totally. We're gonna live this happily ever after life together, and it's just gonna go on like that. But of course it never does. It never does, because they ended up getting caught. That, like I said, they're in jail now, and the children are the one that suffered the most. They're, wherever, whoever has them now, or wherever they're at now. And then, so nobody was a winner in any of that. And then the the husband, the father, he's no longer alive. He in the graveyard. So, I'm just like, wow. But, what, like I said, what stands out to me, y'all, about that is that here that man was trying to help that other man. Okay, you can stay with us. Yeah, he probably was paying him to stay there, and yeah, he needed a place to stay, whatever. But that still does not excuse you to do what you was doing. You don't. That's something you just don't do. I just read it to you. You don't do that. That man, that woman was married, and so that man, however that came about, the cheating or the you know, flirting or whatever, somebody should have been a big enough person and say, you know what, we ain't doing this. This ain't right. But see, when you got people right around you that are plotting against you, and it's family, it's close friends. They right in your circle. They ain't in no faraway place. They ain't in another state. They ain't across the street. Sometimes they right in your house. And like I said, that man, I'm sure he was very comfortable with going to work every day, whatever. And okay, he paying me money to stay here. I'm giving him, I'm providing him a shelter, a place to live, shelter. So what, but and then the man that was cheating, the friend, he said, yeah, it was times where we just all watched TV together. So I'm like, the nerve, you sleeping with his wife and you sitting around him like everything just fine, And y'all, and like I said, now they serving time in jail. That man, they took his life, and I don't know if the children are grown now yet or not, but they, so many lives were affected and destroyed from that cheating, from plotting, from planning, from money, money hungry, just people are just so greedy. They're evil. And when you that greedy after money, the enemy will use you, and you thinking, well, we're going to have we're going to just ride off into the sunset. But that's not how that works. That's not how it works. Because there's a such thing called the legal system. And you will pay. You're going to either pay on this side, or you're going to pay when you stand before the great judge, which is God Almighty. And it's a lot of people. I've seen stories where people have lived to be 70, 80, 90 years old. And they just being found out about something they did so many years ago, DNA or whatever. They've been living a life. I saw that it was I don't know what that was on, but a man had taken the life of two, I think it was two young females, or maybe it may have been more than two females, but years ago. He was in his I think 30s or something. And I think when they caught him, he was old. He was 70, 60, 70, 80, something like that. But that how they caught him, from his DNA. They went through his garbage can. He was dumping stuff outside of his house. They matched the DNA up, caught just like that. All them years went by. He lived out his life. Now he took theirs, but he lived out his life. And that's what I'm saying, y'all. It's so unfair. That's why when I'm so thankful, because I know God has saved me so many times from that. So many. And the Lord, thank you, Jesus. The Lord reminded me, he said, I moved you out here to Colorado, you and the children, for a purpose, to get away from evil-minded people. You say, well, I eat fish sandwiches with them. I drink tea, iced tea with them under the tree. We good. But you don't know that. It's people plotting against you in your family, in your household. Those are the ones. They jealous of you. You got more than, they think you got more than they got. And sometimes it ain't even about that. It's just they don't like you for whatever reason. Something you said, something you did. And they these two people were plotting on that man. That man came home from work one day, life taken. He couldn't, I don't even think he was able to go through the door. They took his life before he even opened the door. And now they serving the rest of their time in jail, and he, no longer alive. So, like I said, nobody won. They didn't get the money that they were plotting and planning on. Didn't get none of that. And that's what I'm saying. It's so important to live a life that's pleasing to Jesus. We got to be mindful of who we allow in our circles, who we allow. Ask the Lord about people. People trying to I want to share this real quick. So when he moved us from Tennessee, I feel like that's what I was dealing with or getting ready to deal with. And some people don't outright want to hurt you, but they thinking that. They thinking that. They don't, I don't want to, with my hand, I don't want to do it, but they want it to be done. And, I've seen several videos and stuff where people have plotted, they planning somebody's demise, paying somebody else to take the person's life, just crazy. Because they don't like the person, or the person, did something to them. But now keep in mind, they gonna pay the person with the money from the policy. Once the person don't pass away, the life policy, that's how they gonna pay the person. Because they so sure, they so, certain they gonna get away with this. So, and you ain't gonna get away with it. It may take 20 years, it may take 30, it may take 40, but you will be caught. And see, you was caught when you did it. You was caught when you committed it, because Jesus seen you. So I just don't, when I watched that, I was like, wow, And then while they were interrogating the cheater and the wife, but both of them were cheaters. But while they were interrogating them, both of them was just steady lying. They were just making up more lies and more lies and more lies. And I seen what a lot of these policemen, what they do. Their whole goal is to turn those people against each other. So they act as though, well, that's what they said. They said this, or he said this, or she said this, to get them to, because see, sometimes when your back is up against the wall, you're going to just start spilling the beans, literally. Because you for some reason, which is unknown, you think you finna get away with this, what you just committed. Okay, if I tell the truth, I ain't gonna have to serve no time. Yeah, you still gonna serve the time. You did the crime, you gonna serve the time. But that's their whole, that's their goal. That's their, what's the word? They're strategic in how they do that. And I noticed that, and they pulling information out of them. Cause see, if that person think that the other person is telling everything, they're gonna start telling everything too, and eventually it's gonna match up. Eventually the truth gonna come out, and both of them, while they trying to wiggle out of what they did evil, it's gonna match up. So y'all, like I said, I thank the Lord for moving us, because like I said, I feel like that's what we were around people. And I had a family member, I like being honest on this channel, I just do. I want to help somebody. But I had a family member tell me, we were at a family function, and I laughed it off. And I even told my late husband, but because I was like, was he playing? But playing. And so he said every last one, we were talking about something else. Because, everybody, we was looking at everybody dance. Some people dancing, some people was, it was like at a house. So everybody, we eating barbecue, whatever, outside, whatever, pretty day. But he got up beside me and he said, you see, he was pointing to different ones, and they were all males, in our family. And he said, you see them over there? And I was like, yeah, I see them. And he said, every last one of them took somebody's life. And I said, what? And he called them, the K word. And I was like, the K, start with a K, and basically they've taken somebody's life. And I said, oh, they have. And so he said they're, well, I'll say the word. He said they were killers at some point. And I said, hmm. And I just sort of laughed. I didn't think it was funny, but I just thought he was playing. But now that I think back on that, I'm like, I don't think he was playing. And like I said, I shared it with my late husband, and he said, who said that? And I told him who said it, and he said he telling the truth. He said he probably telling the truth. And so I was like, wow, yeah. And like I said, when he said it to me, when I just looked, because we were just, everybody was having fun and laughing and ha ha ha. And when he said that to me, I was like, what? But I was like, why did he even say that to me? But now I understand that the Lord is revealing that through this video that I'm sharing with you all, that's what I've been around. I've been around people like that, plotting and stuff. And who knows if somebody was plotting against my life? I don't even know, But y'all, this is real. It's real out here. It's real. Demons are real. Evil is real. But God is in control. And like I said, we got to be mindful of who we letting in our house. We got to be mindful of who we befriending. I'm back, y'all. Let me finish this video up. The enemy don't want me to finish talking about this, but I believe I was talking about we just got to be mindful of who we befriending. And I've shared this before, but I've had 2 women here, and it just didn't sit right with me. They just about begging me to come over their house, and I'm like, for what? I don't. Both of them older than me, but I'm like, I already see what kind of people you are, what type of person you are, how you talking. Both of them, like, they mean, and the other thing I noticed, they snappy. Just everything is nothing sits right with them a lot of times. And I'm like, you think I'm finna come over your house? You got nothing coming. I'm not going nowhere near you where you live. No, I'll meet you in a public place, and I may not even do that. But yeah, just almost begging, pleading. When you gonna come over there? No, I don't want to. Because that gives me pause right there. And then there was there's another lady here, and I was thinking about it. I said, I'm gonna go visit her. But it was almost like the Lord said, don't you go back in that house. Because I know her, but it's like, I was going to go visit and just see how she doing or whatever. And he said, don't go back in that house. And so when the Lord warns you, you better take heed to that warning. Because like I said, it's people that the enemy will use them. They may not even have an initial, had it in their heart to do that. But the enemy will use them because, one thing about it, when you step foot in somebody's domain, when you step foot in their house or wherever they live, their dwelling place, you went in willingly. Didn't nobody pull you in there. Didn't nobody push you in there. You went in there willingly. They can lock the door. They can go in a room and like they looking for something, and then come out 2 or 3 people that can do anything they want to do to you. I'm not paranoid, but this is what happens, y'all. This is what happens. Be mindful. Be mindful of who is you inviting over your house, who house you going over. Who you befriending. Well, what's wrong? Because back in the day, y'all, I was so foolish. I was giving my number before I met my late husband. I was giving my number out to just random guys and just trying to get attention. But God protected me, and he didn't allow anything ever to happen to me. But it could have, had he not had his holy hand on me. People have lost their lives for just bad decisions. I was watching something not too long ago, and the mom told the son, said, son, you made a bad decision. So he had to go to jail because of that bad decision. And there's some people, as a result of their bad decisions, they're in the graveyard. So y'all, we got to be mindful. We do. But my heart goes out to that family. I pray for those, that wife and that the man who the husband was trying to help. And all along, they both, but not just him. She was in on it too. She was plotting against him too. It's so sad, y'all. It's so sad. People we think we can trust, They can't even, they don't even like themselves, and they hate us. But I was just looking at the pictures of the deceased father. It's like he was just such a nice guy. But we, in our kindness, in our niceness, we got to ask the Lord for discernment, because I don't know. We just, and that's why it's so important to stay in his word, to stay close to him. And like I said, when those women just about begging me to come over their house, and not in a weird way or nothing, but it's just, let's hang out. Let's, let's hang out. Let's have a girls' day out or whatever. I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then, that now one of them, when we first moved here, me and her was going to Panera Bread a lot. I was, but then I quickly saw how short-tempered she was, and how, she was just, I don't know, she just started acting kind of weird. So I was like, yeah, I won't be talking to her no more. I could just quit talking to her and quit texting her. And then the other lady, I have yet to go anywhere with her. But, like I said, we better be paying attention to some of these lights are worn out from flashing. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you had some warnings. But we like what we like. We think, well, they would never do anything like that. You'll be surprised. If people given the right amount of money, if they given the right perfect opportunity, they'll do some crazy stuff. They'll do some crazy stuff. People have done some stuff down through the years for no money. They just, the enemy, they allow the enemy to use them. They get mad, they get upset about something, and they say, okay, I'm going to get my revenge. I'm going to do what I want to do. Or they think they're going to do what they want to do, but it's the price they got to pay for that, for letting the enemy use them. But again, as they were interrogating both of them about the man that they took the life of, they, like I said, they were lying to the end, and it was almost like they had no remorse about what they did. Didn't get a chance to spend all that money. Didn't get a chance to do nothing. Now they gotta spend their time, rest of their days in jail. I don't know. I figure how much time they got, but it don't even matter. You didn't get what you were plotting and planning to do. You didn't get a chance to do it. I mean, you did what you initially wanted to do, but you had to pay the consequence. You paying the consequence for it. But I believe, y'all, a lot of times people think they're going to get away with stuff. That's why they're so sure. That's why they're so, they think they just got this very, perfect plan. Perfect plan. They gonna just get away with it. And that's not how it's not going to work out like that. Because one, it clearly states in God's holy word. That's one of the 10 commandments, do not kill. So I just pray that this blesses somebody. I pray that you watch this video and listen to it, because be mindful. Ask the Lord to give you a discerning spirit if anybody's around you, because he sure revealed it to me. There were so many people around me, they were trying to hurt and harm me. He revealed it to me. And I'm so happy we so far away from them right now. Because, see, they showing it how much they dislike me now through their words. They can't get to me, so let me just speak evil against her. Let me speak just bad stuff against her life. But see, I shared the video about this. You can't stop what God has already preordained for your life. Can't nobody stop it. Can't nobody stop the great plans he has for you or for me, for any of us that's walking with him. So, as always, I pray you always hear Jesus speaking to me and never me. I pray you've had a beautiful, blessed day in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you all for listening, for subscribing, for comments, and may the love of Jesus Christ just overwhelm you each and every day, and may he use you all in a mighty way. Bye-bye.